Good evening, everybody. So great to have so many people here. I'm Becky Boson. I'm a consultant for NCF, and I'm the co-creator of the Dream Switch. And gathered here tonight virtually is an ambitious network of people, neighbors, citizens, leaders, big dreamers. Let's start the session off right by reminding everyone here, your dreams are welcome here. Tonight, we'll learn new ways to unleash energies around your dreams, create something simple and powerful to share with your own community, and learn some of the ways Nebraska Community Foundation can work alongside your hometown and FAC to bring your wildest dreams to life. First, let's hear what some folks had to say about bringing dreams alive in their own vibrant places with a short video.
It was the Red Cloud Community Foundation Fund that got the community together so the community could decide that the Valley Child Development Center was one of their top goals, to provide high quality care and learning for all the community's children. And it was because of NCF that encouraged that process that brought that all about.
Boone County is encouraging people to pursue their dreams by offering them the resources to pursue them. I know Boone County Foundation Fund itself has both the annual Big Give, which is a fundraiser event where they help raise funds for several different things. I know when I was in high school, one of those was the Fine Arts Remodel, which was helping remodel one of the gyms for the band and the choir at the high school.
So I've been fortunate to be a part of a number of affiliated funds through NCF, and it's been exciting to see dreams launch in a sense, specifically through Connecting Young Nebraskans. As we were transitioning to NCF, it's been amazing to see that expansion of the mission. Did some strategic planning efforts, have started to grow the network. Recently got into All Voices at the Table, just a critical conversation for us in where we're at as a nation and specifically a state. And so that's been neat to see for CYN. And then also locally speaking, Legacy Fund for Seward County. We've been talking about creating a fund that really would be an inclusive fund to support causes, charitable in nature, but unrestricted. And we haven't had that before in Seward County. So this was really just a gift to have this fund start at this time, especially in light of COVID, that we have people willing to step up. I think the last number I heard was over $129,000 raised through that fund during this time. I mean, that's amazing. It's almost an overwhelming number in the generosity that our local communities have stepped up to support those in need.
The Overton Area Community Fund is encouraging people to pursue their dreams, I would say through conversation.
I think we're creating a sense of community and just a vibe that draws people here, that sees Red Cloud as a positive place that is interested in growing and interested in being the best that it can be. And I think the Community Foundation is the driving force behind that.
And we really try to push the community at large to dream and to think outside the box in terms of what's possible, whether that be for community development or just the way things are done and the way decisions get made at a local level. We really just try to push people to dream and imagine even things that may seem totally out of the box and impossible.
I think the Red Cloud Community Foundation Fund is helping people to pursue their dreams by not only providing high quality child care to the area, but then also helping raise up the entire community by non-traditional scholarships, heritage tourism, and bringing more business to Red Cloud.
The one thing that stops a lot of people from following their dreams is they don't have the money to do it, and BCFF helps give them that money.
When someone has an idea and they make people in the community aware of that idea, people are extremely apt to help them and just do whatever they can to help that idea really take flight. I think it's really exciting when you're in Perkins County or a smaller community and someone is trying to do something bigger than the community itself. I think that that's really cool. So I think that everyone will be super apt to help you do whatever they can to make sure that you're successful.
And so I think that just the way that my community is excited about the future and how they're supporting people who want to follow their dreams in Ainsworth and Brown County is just awesome.
I think that making sure that we have not just the cookie cutter aspect of a small town, but really kind of pushing the boundaries is something that we have really strived to do, at least in the organizations present in the community have really strived to do that. So I think we have some amazing people here that really not only lead by example, but lead for the people that are coming behind them to have the opportunity to pursue any dream that they see fit.
Okay, I think I'm next. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jeff Yost. If you want to go ahead and take yourselves off, or if you want to go ahead and put yourselves back on video, we can see one another now that the video is done. I just find those testimonials absolutely inspiring. And one of my key jobs this evening is to sort of bridge the context between last night and tonight, and then give a little bit of context to dreaming big. So last night was pretty much what we would consider act one of the Dream Switch. You had a musical performance, you had all these returners talking about why they're back in Greater Nebraska. And that's really act one. Act two is this conversation about what's possible and what might we want to do together. So really, as you think about how the Dream Switch might work in your home place, that's kind of how it breaks out, as the musical performance, and many of the testimonials are the front end of that. And it's community conversation, which we hope would go on multiple iterations, not just once. But hopefully the Dream Switch helps you to kick off that community conversation about what's possible and what we should dream about together. So let's talk about dreams. There's a few things I want to introduce to all of you just to contextualize this. The first is by a business author named Jim Collins. And Jim Collins wrote a couple really famous books, Good to Great and Built to Last. One of the things Collins talks about is what's called a BHAG, a BHAG, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's like, what's the great big thing we can possibly do and do together in this business and in this context, in our community, in our hometown? What's our BHAG? The second, and NCF talks about this a lot, but it's all this context of abundance. We have enough money, we have enough talent, we have enough resources, we have enough time to do what we choose to do. And one of the things we talk about, we'll talk about it more, is when it's personal, it's important. When it's important, it gets done. So we're going to dig into some of that this evening. And then third, and I think this may be the most important of the three, is our community economic development equation today is much different than it was 10 or 20 years ago. 10 or 20 years ago, the primary thing we were focused on in community economic development was job creation and job retention. Today, it's people attraction. So our community economic development question really has changed from a question of jobs to a question of why here. Why do I want to live and work and raise my family in this community? Why is this the place where I want to be? And 2020 has been all of these, really challenging things for all of us. But one of the silver linings is we are figuring out how to use technology to bridge the geography. We are learning some new things. And this is a big part of this. Abby Wondercheck talks about the fact she's been in Stewart since 2009 and has the same job that she had when she left Lincoln. That's amazing for Abby to now be raising her family in Stewart 11 years later and doing the same work. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people doing that, where people can bring their job with them. So it really changes all of the dynamics of what we can dream about in our places and what we should be dreaming about. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those big dreams. So would you put up the first slide, please? This is a picture of my little home place of Red Cloud. This is a picture of the edible schoolyard at the Valley Child Development Center. And many of you are very familiar with the Valley Child Development Center. $2.2 million project, big, beautiful, state-of-the-art early childhood development facility. Capacity of 75. I mean, just amazing stuff, right? And they just talked about it in the video. Well, the fascinating part about the Valley Child Development Center is lots of that big dreaming didn't start with the Valley Child Development Center. It actually started within a lot of their heritage tourism context. And a lot of the same leaders came out of that sort of theory of abundance and brought it to this issue of high quality, affordable childcare, because those were really the two things Red Cloud wanted to focus in on, were heritage tourism as their primary economic development strategy and high quality, affordable childcare, which turned into early childhood development and this incredible model for all of us to use. Well, one of the things, and this is incredibly important, is it took the Red Cloud Fund a period of time to sort of figure this out. And they used some of their resources from their unrestricted endowment to really do some planning and analysis of what could we do. We have these dreams, but one of the things I always say is hope is not a plan. So how do we use some of that money to figure out if the stuff we're dreaming about is big enough or on track or really matches with the assets and the community capitals that we have? Next slide, please. This is Pender. Many of you have been to the Pender Community Center, a community of 1,000 people that built this $7.1 million community center, almost entirely with local resources. There's an early childhood development center in it. You can have 1,000 people for dinner. It's unbelievable inside. There's a fine and performing arts area in there, gymnasium, batting cages, a 24-hour fitness area. I mentioned the early childhood development piece that they've put together with the hospital, the municipal offices. That didn't happen overnight. It really took them about 8 years of constant conversation to figure out, okay, who are the people that we should partner up with to get the Pender Community Center done? And they just kept being open to what's possible, as opposed to being realistic about, oh, other places have only done this and that, so we should really kind of tamp it back. They just kept being open to what's possible, and look at this amazing thing they've accomplished. Next slide, please. This is Ord. The building you're seeing is the Golden Husk. The Golden Husk was once upon a time a movie theater. A couple had put it together as sort of a restaurant and dinner theater sort of thing, and now it's a community-owned property. They've really used arts and culture as a huge people attraction piece in Valley County. The Golden Husk gets used by all sorts of groups all the time, and the sorts of both youth interactions and adult interactions they're now having in the Golden Husk, absolutely awesome. Well, you combine that with the other philanthropic resources they've raised in Valley County, not only can they sustain the Golden Husk and the programs within it, but they can really think about what are the bigger things we could do here to connect arts and creativity with entrepreneurship. Right next door is Good Life Pharmacy. Good Life Pharmacy figured out 25 years ago a whole series of compounding elements, primarily for pet pharmaceuticals. Just all sorts of interesting things that keep coming out of it, right? And it's all because they're being open to what's possible. And that's such an incredible element of bringing our dreams home. I just want to tell you about a few other things that are happening in the NCF network of people dreaming big. The Affiliated Fund in Nebraska City and a number of other local groups, including EDGE, are really trying to figure out, okay, what are the things we could do to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty in Nebraska City? That's a BHAG. That is like a really, really big thing to think about, and think about all the different moving parts within the context of intergenerational poverty. So what they've really zeroed in on is literacy. Cool. That's a really, really good place to start. Now, what are all the things we can do together to help that group continue to take the next step. Because there's lots of different literacy, right? There's financial literacy. There's home buyer literacy. There's being an employee literacy. There's relationship literacy. There's parenting literacy. There's all these things we can do to help people who want to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. In Stewart, there was a dream of a movie theater. Well, now you have the Murphy Theater in Stewart, and up until COVID, and obviously COVID changed all these circumstances, but 40,000 people had gone to the movies in Stewart in 5 years. Right? That's big stuff. In Eustis, they have a brand new wellness center. In Boone County, they have a $2.3 million ag education center on the fairgrounds. They're doing that at the same time they're doing the Cardinal Kids Club, which is connected to after school work, and Boone Beginnings, which is a $3.5 million early childhood development center. Back to Nebraska City for a second. One of the other things they're doing to try to break that cycle of intergenerational poverty in Nebraska City, 69 different non-traditional scholarships in the last 20 years, helping lots and lots of adults in the workforce go back to community college, go back to get a bachelor's degree, so they don't have to continue to work part-time service sector jobs. They can become members of the middle class with benefits, et cetera, et cetera. Few other things that are just really cool things that have happened in the NCF network the last few years, and then we'll take the next step on this. In David City, there is one of probably the top agrarian art museums in the world in David City, the Bone Creek Museum. If you haven't been there, go. The affiliated fund was intimately involved in helping that to happen. In Ainsworth, the last few years, the Brown County Fund helped the community of Ainsworth to transition its skilled nursing facility from private ownership to public ownership when the private owners closed the facility. We know we need these skilled nursing facilities in these places, right? Okay, so what can the affiliated fund do to help? And they were a partner with county government and municipal government and the hospital to help get that transition made so they continue to have a skilled nursing facility in Ainsworth. You look at Shickley. Shickley's invested $500,000 in its home place over the years from the payout from its endowment. Early childhood development, entrepreneurial investigation work through 4-H, all sorts of really interesting curriculum enhancement. Speaking of curriculum enhancement, all of the virtual reality and holographic and information technology stuff they've done in the Bertrand school system through the Bertrand Fund. I mean, just time and time and time again, there's all these things we can dream about. We're never, ever going to run out of work to do. And the beauty of the transfer of wealth, the beauty of the massive context of the transfer of wealth, again, we think it's some $600 billion over the next 50 years in Nebraska. So that is billions in every county we live in. What if just a tiny bit of that is given back to the places where it was made and accumulated? Well, that's $30 billion. We can do an enormous amount of good community economic development work with $30 billion. So that's the context of dreaming big here. I am going to now turn it to, am I going back to Becky? No, I'm going to Christy.
Back to me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. So everyone, let's dream big tonight. Thank you for joining us for our second evening session of our Dreams Welcome Week. I'm Christine Gale, a Community Impact Coordinator for NCF, but really my job, as well as with all of us here at NCF, is to help you make your dreams happen in your communities. This session is going to be interactive, but not hard. And all you will need is something to write with and some paper. So the first thing we're going to do is to send you out into some breakout rooms to do an icebreaker. So since tonight is about dreaming big, we want you to start with sharing a memorable childhood dream with the others in your break room. Childhood dreams seem to be different because they don't have barriers or limitations. So we want you to share these unlimiting dreams. Most of the breakouts do have a volunteer ready to get the conversation going, but what we just ask of you in these breakout rooms is to introduce yourself, share your childhood dream, and just make sure that everyone gets a chance to share. So with that, Carrie, if you could please send us out to our breakout rooms. All right. Well, everyone, hopefully you had a great time remembering and sharing your childhood dreams. One of our community volunteers, Melanie Flynn from Valley County, has a quote that she shared that's very fitting for this childhood dream exercise. She said that the light we had as children never went away. So tonight, let's keep that light shining and allow ourselves to keep dreaming. Our next activity is going to be something that you do by yourself. We're going to have that paper and something to write with, and we'd like you to write down a personal dream. This could be a dream about yourself or a personal dream about those close to you. So let's take a few minutes and write down your personal dream. So hopefully you're able to finish up your personal dreams here. For those of you who are comfortable, we'd love for you to share your personal dreams in our chat box and let other people see what your personal dreams are. It's important to have personal dreams and to share them with others because you may find that you share similar dreams. Personal dreams can also lead to successful community dreams. a personal dream can benefit a community. Maybe your dream is you'd like your grandkids to move home, or maybe your dream is you'd like to buy your first home or start a business. All of our personal dreams can definitely impact our community. So please, if you're comfortable, add your personal dreams to the chat and share with one another. And Jeff, I'd just like you to pass it on to you and ask if you can share how innovative dreams can help us connect to our communities.
Remember my 2020 rules and unmute myself. Actually, I just put 3 quotes in the chat for all of you to think about sort of these kinds of connections. One of my favorite inventors in terms of who's quotable is Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison had many, many quotable quotes, but the 3 I put in the chat I think are sort of most relevant for this evening. The first is, we often miss opportunity because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. The second is, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And the third is, if we all did the things we're really capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. I love those. We have the capacity, we have the drive, we have the intelligence, we have the resources to make our dreams come true. So part of what we're always trying to figure out is, okay, how do we do that? With an ABCD, we know that no one person knows all of the resources a community can bring to bear. So that's why we want to do things together. Earlier today, there was a leadership succession session, which got rudely interrupted. But before that, Al Stoiter, who was the NCF board chair for a few years, he's been on the NCF board for 9 years. He's also been a member and a leader of the Brown County Fund for many years. Al is trained as a rangeland ecologist. And one of the things that Al has noted is that each generation is better equipped to navigate their environment than the generation prior. You know, so if that's true in nature, why wouldn't that be true for us? And if what we're trying to do is create the most attractive communities we can, one of the things, again, within an ABCD context is we know that people belong through having their gifts and talents received. So the power of invitation is incredibly important in terms of attracting people to want to be in community with us. And based upon what Al was telling us as an ecologist, why wouldn't we have enormous amounts of confidence in the next generation? So, you know, there's a few things that I think we can do with that in terms of inviting young people to the table. What should we do? How should we do it? Who should we invite? Who should we partner with? Again, we want to approach it in a really, really open way, because that's how people have a sense of belonging, and that's how people co-produce things. And when we co-produce, we co-own. When we co-own, we will fight like hell to make sure whatever we've created is sustained and bettered. So would you bring up the graphic, please? So one of the things we know about innovation, and again, this is exactly what we want to do with money in the NCF network, is to figure out what are the things we can do to create change that otherwise may not occur. Well, positive change is created by innovation, right? And innovation comes from the edges. None of the people that I was just talking about, including Thomas Edison, but also Alexander Graham Bell and Eli Whitney and Hedy Lamarr and Steve Jobs, none of those people started at the middle. They all started at the edges and brought their innovations in. Well, some of them, the ecosystem they were approaching was kind of like an egg. And an egg is hard, it's repellent, it must be cracked open. As Humpty Dumpty taught us, it can't be put back together again. We don't want our communities to be like an egg. We want our communities to be like a sponge. If the key to being prosperous and growing is being open to what's possible. We want to be permeable and absorbent, open to what's possible. But the amazing part about a sponge is as it soaks in and as it releases, it retains its shape. And really, in this case, the shape is the values of your fund advisory committee and of your fund. So what are the things you can do to create an ecosystem in your place and with your fund advisory committee to be more like a sponge? Does that make sense? Okay. That's what I have to share at the moment.
So I love it when we can take something we've just seen and apply it directly to what we're doing. And thus is the case with the egg in the sponge. Tonight, everyone here is going to get the opportunity to be both a sponge and a liquid with an activity that we're going to dive into called the 6-word dream. Now, some of you may be familiar with the concept of the 6-word memoir. That's something some of us have participated in before. We're going to borrow some concepts from that activity tonight and shake it up a little bit to get down to the heart of what you're dreaming about for your community. Before we get started, I'm going to share just a couple examples of 6-word dreams. Early childhood opportunities attract new neighbors. There's an example of a 6-word dream. Another is youth lead the way with adults. And I'm actually going to pick on my friend Jeff Yost again and call him in to share a 6-word dream that he shared that I think is a wonderful example to hear tonight. Jeff, would you mind?
The 6-word dream that I have is I don't know, let's try together.
How great is that? So hopefully, thank you, Jeff. Hopefully these examples show you that you can go wild and in any direction you want to go with this activity. We're going to do it step by step together. No experience is necessary. All you need is something to write on, something to write with, and a dream. So you can see our list here. These steps are just to help you along the way, but I'm going to ask you to stick with me step by step so we can really soak up all that goodness with our sponges tonight in our dreaming. We'll start with step 1. I'd like you to take a few minutes to make a list of dreams you have for your community. Go big here and allow yourself to dream about ideas that might even seem too big to talk about. I want you to dream big dreams. And if you run out of dreams, start making up new ones. Go, write down your list of community dreams. We'll take about 2 minutes. You have about 1 more minute. Keep writing down those dreams. About 30 seconds left. And when you get to a place you can stop, please do so. Hopefully your hand just wants to keep writing down those dreams, but save them if you didn't get them on the paper in time. We're going to go to step 2, which is very simple. Take a look at your list and circle the first dream that stands out to you. See if you could really trust your impulse here and go towards that dream you gravitate towards. Go ahead and circle it. Once you've circled that dream, I want you to look at it. Really focus on the words. And when I say go, I'd like you to start writing whatever comes to mind in response to the dream you've selected. Don't put any rules on this. You can write sentences, you can make bullet points, you can sketch pictures and write little words next to them. Whatever your response is to the dream, that's what I want you to get on the paper. Go. If you've started writing, keep going. If it might be helpful to have a prompt, I'm just going to gently share a couple with you. Who else from your hometown might get excited about your dream? What would bringing this dream to life mean for your place? You have about 2 minutes to write. We'll take about 1 more minute. Good. And when you get to a place where you can stop, go ahead and finish what you're writing. Set your pencil aside for just a moment. The awesome thing about writing and brainstorming is all the information you put on the page lives with you. So if you're not finished, you can always go back to it and it's there waiting for you. When you're ready, we'll move on to step 4, which is look at what you've written about your dream. Go ahead and look at what you've written down. Read over it. Notice if you've written sentences or made bullet points. Take a moment to circle the words that stand out most to you. Maybe 5 or 6 or 7 words that really pop when you look at things you've written. Take just another moment to circle any words that look good to you, things that you are attracted to or like. Or maybe you don't like, maybe they stand out because they're strong in some other way. Good. And now as our final step, step 5, I'd like you to take 2 or 3 minutes to use the words that you've circled. Along with other words, feel free to be flexible and insert or remove words and create a 6-word dream based on the dream you selected at the beginning of the exercise. We'll take about 2-3 minutes. Go ahead and write your 6-word dream. Enjoy. We've got about another 2 minutes, minute and a half. About 1 more minute to finish your 6-word dream. If you've finished already, take a deep breath, relax, enjoy being together. About 30 seconds to wrap it up. Okay, we're going to stop right there wherever you are in your 6-word dream. And the next thing we'd like to do is send you into a breakout room with someone else. We'll ask you to share your 6-word dream and also to listen and hear the other person's 6-word dream as well. As Christine said, you might even be dreaming the same dream and not know it. If you didn't happen to finish your 6-word dream, please still go to the breakout session and discuss what you were thinking about. That is just as important as getting it on paper. We're going to send you out now. Enjoy. Good. Okay, we're getting close here. Just want to welcome everybody back as you return here from your breakout sessions. I hope there were some great conversations happening and 6-word dream sharing going on. I'm wondering, Dakota Cheney, can I pick on you? Would you be willing to share your 6-word dream with us tonight?
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Awesome.
So kind of to begin with, the first 3 goals I wrote down is I wanted more businesses downtown. I wanted community collaboration. And then I also wanted our youth to be believed in. And so my 6-word dream was multi-generational collaboration, the key for change.
Goosebumps. That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And did you notice that Dakota called his dreams goals? And isn't that exactly what a dream is a goal? Then it becomes active. Then it becomes something we can pursue. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, dreams are iterative and they're also contagious. And so now I'm going to ask you to be courageous. I'm rhyming. And ask you to please, if you would, share your own 6-word dream in the chat box as we move forward. We would love to hear from as many people as possible. Let's just flood that chat box with 6-word dreams. Meanwhile, I'm going to hand it back over to Christine, who will take us forward, but get those dreams in the chat box.
Thanks, Becky. Well, I'm excited to see what your 6-word dreams were, and I wish I was a little bug on the wall listening to all your little conversations, because it seemed like there was a lot of energy. So thanks for participating and putting your dreams out there. So we're going to talk just a little bit how these dreams can be put into action. And a lot of this is common sense and some things that you may already know, but we're going to just put it out there. So for those of you who are having a hard time jumping from dreams to actually taking action in your community, here's some steps. So dreams and change, as Becky said, are iterative, which means that they don't just happen one time and then end. You don't just dream once and then you're done. We want you to dream, make your dreams happen, and then continue to dream. So we start by dreaming big. And what we mean by that is really think about how we can make an impact on our communities at the minimum of the next 10 years. But knowing that, as Al said, we're in the forever business. So start maybe with 10 years impact, but then continue to dream bigger and bigger. The next step is obviously relationships. Dreams need to be shared. We share those dreams to those that we have relationships with, and we build relationships through meaningful conversation, which you've heard us talk a lot about. Meaningful conversation is how we share our dreams and how we hear what others are dreaming. And then we can see if we are sharing some of the same dreams. But we also might hear something completely new and different that we hadn't even thought about. And that should help us seek out new people to build new relationships with. We should reach out beyond our comfort zone of who we're comfortable talking about our dreams with. We want to develop more and more relationships with people who are not generally invited to the conversation. When we recognize those shared dreams, we work to build trust, engage partners, build collaboration towards a common goal. And besides learning from those that we're working with, we also encourage our affiliated fund members to be engaged in the planning process of a dream from the very beginning, rather than just waiting for other people to bring their dreams to the affiliated fund. So that's kind of the cycle that we want you to get involved with as you're dreaming and make them happen. So how do we become agents for change? Jeff talked about it earlier. Many of you have been working very hard to build your endowments and build your capacity. Now, many of you have a significant amount of funds that you can really make meaningful grants. And so that's really important, because that's obviously the first step. And you'll continue to build those endowments, and you should. But remember, dreams are innovative ideas, and sometimes they're untested. And as Jeff had mentioned, it's okay to grant to new programs and think of your unrestricted endowment funds as research and development money. It's okay to take a risk on a new idea or an untested idea. That's how we know if things are going to work in our community. And if you can't take those risks with our unrestricted endowment funds in a community, what funds can you take that risk with? So we encourage you to really think about that money as that research and development. But there's so many other things you can do besides just write that check. You can add value to your local efforts through the leadership that you have, through the training and this work of community development that you have. You can also use this network across the state and draw on our resources of all of our different communities who have similar ideas or are working on something similar, and you can bring them into the fold in your community. We've talked about your affiliated fund being a connector in the community. One of your main roles is bringing people together towards a common cause. And believing in your hometown is remembering the abundance of your community and all of the positive assets that you have to draw on. So, dreams are definitely a way to make impact. Together, we can create positive change by acting on our dreams, rather than just sitting back and being a funder. We have many tools at the Nebraska Community Foundation that can help you unleash your local dreams. Remember, all of us here at NCF are resources for you. We're here to work alongside with you as your community explores these dreams. We definitely try to do things with people, not for people. So there are many of these tools that you should take advantage of. Some of them you may have already done, but all of these trainings are available to you as affiliated funds. So please reach out to your coordinator and let them know what you're interested in, and let us help you make your dreams happen. So with that, I'd just like to pass it back to Jeff to share some final words.
Thanks, Christine. Wow, I was just reading through all of those in the chat. Amazing, inspiring, really incredible. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. So there's 3 words that are on the page here, right? Vision, courage, teamwork. One of the things that's so gratifying about how the NCF network has grown and evolved over the years is there really is money in this network now to pursue some of these ideas. It's not little nickel and dime things anymore. Many of your funds have $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, $50,000 a year to be able to make investments in the future of your place to create change that otherwise may not occur. So what is the vision connected to that? There's a reason that we ask you to go through a process of determining your vision, mission, and values, because those are the things that are really going to help you help that sponge retain its shape as you grow and evolve. So what is the vision, and how do we sort of flesh those out? The second piece, and this is always easier to do together, is courage. Change is hard. In many places, change is a 4-letter word. So how do we have enough efficacy, enough trust, enough teamwork to be courageous together to try new things? To say, well, you know, what we've done for a long time, it's worked for this group of people, but it hasn't worked for this other group of people. What's something that would help us serve everyone? What's something that would help us create more equity in our place? What I'm hoping we can do through the NCF network, and we can all do together, is how do we have the courage to try new things? So I don't want to underestimate how hard that is. That's hard. We are here to help you with that. We are here to have your back. We are here to help you think through the different ways you might do that. We're here to help you, to connect you to your peers so you can learn from them. But what are all the things that we could try to make this world a better world, and to make our state a better state, and to make our communities feel and be home. And the watchword for the NCF network the next 10 years is teamwork. There's incredible leadership in our affiliated funds. I'm really confident in the vision and courage we have, but those will only get taken as far as we can together. I mentioned this earlier in ABCD. One of the clear things we know is no one person in our community knows all the resources of our community. So it's why we do things like asset mapping. It's why we do things like community conversations. It's why we engage with people who are different than we are. And that might be age, that might be employment, it might be race, ethnicity, it might be faith. But what are all the conversations we can have with people that probably don't live in our little echo chamber? You know, somebody that just sees the world a little differently than I do, or somebody that's had dramatically different experiences than I've had. And how do we bring those people in as part of our team? And usually it isn't just saying, this is our vision, this is our courage, join our team. It's usually being open to having them help you morph and evolve that. How should our vision morph? How should we continue to grow and change? One of the things I really like about all of my colleagues at NCF is we're all collectively committed to continuous improvement. We're all learning every day. And I would hope that every fund advisory committee has a similar commitment to continuous learning, because that is how we're going to change the world for the better, because there's lots and lots of questions where the answer is, I don't know. And, you know, for as amazing as science is, 2020 teaches us that science can't get us as far as we need to go. We need to have more mutual commitment. We need to have more common understanding, right? So what are those things we can do to help make those dreams come true? We are here to help you figure that out. Just like Christine said, NCF isn't going to do it for you or to you, but we are here to do it with you. And I hope you will call. I hope you will email. I hope you'll send us a note, or more importantly, create an invitation that we could help you think through some of the dreams you've articulated and how we might make those dreams more of a reality than they are today. One of the things we'd be happy to do is, if there are a few questions or comments that people want to make, we're sort of happy to open it up to that. And then I may have a couple other things to say, and then we'll sign off for the evening. How do you want to do that, Christine? Do you want people to raise their hand? Do you just want them to unmute themselves? Put it in the chat.
Why don't we try unmuting if people are comfortable, and see how that works. If it doesn't, we'll move to chat or raising hands. Any thoughts or takeaways that you'd like to share with us tonight? Are you still deep in thought? Which is understandable.
I just want to say that I found it so inspiring to see all those 6-word dreams filling up the chat. And I'm dreaming of like an artwork where all of them are written down, because I just, I don't even know that I caught them all, because there were so many and they were so thought-provoking and inspiring. So I just love that.
I think in the chat, Denise had a question about the egg and the sponge, Jeff, the origins of that. Whoops, you're muted, Jeff.
So I don't know this for sure. I just sort of came up with that on my own. I'm always standing on somebody else's shoulders. So somebody else might have come up with something or something similar, but I just sort of dreamt that up as a way of illustrating for all of us, all of the advantages of being open and all of the disadvantages of being closed.
I liked the, kind of how we began with the childlike vision. I just felt like that was so helpful to get my brain thinking in a creative way, and to be more open to, coming up with some ideas for our community that maybe I wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
And if there's some of these exercises that you feel like could be advantageous for your fund advisory committee, we're happy to come facilitate that, or we're happy to help you sort of work through your own facilitation plan to do that. So happy to help in whatever way would make sense, Kara.
I read recently that every child is an artist, and then for some reason, all of a sudden they think they aren't an artist. And so that's something to think about. I think everybody has those childhood visions, and we need to honor them and help them explore that.
I would agree. I think it's this exercise has been a wonderful reminder for us to rekindle that childhood dreaming, to think big.
I have one. I just think of a Bible verse that, and I'm not sure where it's at, maybe somebody can help me, but God has created you for such a time as this. And I just think with everything that's been going on in the world in 2020, if we keep our dream, we keep our focus, we keep on keeping on, we'll complete those dreams. And I believe that God has created us for such a time as this. I'm complete.
We have a lot of big thinkers on this line. Who are a couple other folks that want to share what's going on inside?
Hey, Jeff, it's Jay Wallinger. As I was listening to Al earlier today, and then you bringing that back up, where he talked about how important it is for the young generation, paraphrasing, to be able to navigate. And then to hear Dakota say the same thing in his words tonight, and that is just swirling in my head, that it's so important to engage those younger members of our communities, and then for the rest of us to stick around and teach them what we've learned along the way, of course, too. But that is just the thought in my mind today, is how important both what Dakota said and what Al said earlier. I'm finished.
And one of the things that might be helpful for all of you is as we were going through all of the strategic framework process for NCF, three of the key words we came up with were unleash, inspire, connect. And I think what you're talking about here, Jay, is both, well, maybe it's all three of those, but certainly it's unleashing that potential energy and making those connections between generations. I mean, that is a powerful force in terms of people attraction. We want young people to be in community with us. Been brought up a couple times this week that the only folks that want to be retained are attorneys. Everybody else wants to be attracted. So how do we think about unleash, inspire, connect within the context of our affiliated funds, within the context of grant making from our unrestricted endowments, in the context of what are the key issues that you want your fund to be a community convener on, or champion an educational effort, or serve as a resource hub?
This is Cindy Huff. I just keep thinking about the things going on in McCook and then also at a state level. And we just get so caught up in the minutia of why we can't. And so by dreaming big, it forces us to think outside of how are we going to get this done in the traditional way and move on to new thinking. And our newer members, our younger members, force us to think that way. So if we're talking about generational impact in McCook, we got to listen to our young people. I am complete.
Do we have time for just a couple more?
Sure. If there's a couple more, I'd love to hear them. This has been great conversation. It's okay to have a little bit of pondering time. This is big stuff we're talking about.
This is Mary Kay. I'm in Lincoln. This has been such an inspiring experience to listen to so many people from so many communities talk about their dreams. But I think it strikes me that the biggest challenge is to be able to loop in the people in a community who say, no, thanks, I don't want to be involved. And figuring out how to really make achieving these dreams be an activity that will be seen as worthwhile by everyone in the community and not just by a group of go-getters, which all of you are. And I sound like I'm throwing cold water on this, and that's not what I mean at all. But I think there's a lot of heavy lifting that has to be done in communities to make sure that everyone really can be part of the process.
I think that's a really fabulous point to make. And a great example of that is when the folks in Pender were doing the Pender Community Center, because that was truly dreaming big, right? $7 million project in a community the size of Pender. And I was looking through all the participants to see if we had somebody on the line from Pender, and I didn't spot anybody. So if I missed somebody, if you'd unmute and tell me, that'd be great. But one of the things we witnessed in Pender is they kept being open to late adopters. So lots of times we have early adopters, right? But we also have late adopters. And one of the things that I was so incredibly impressed with in Pender is they kept creating grace and space for people to join in. And I thought it was really powerful the way they did that, because lots of times we're just like, okay, we got to close it off, right? And the folks in Pender, boy, they just kept pushing themselves to create space for people to join well after lots of other folks had. So I think that's a great lesson for us, especially within the context of the politics of small towns, to remember that we want to have some grace and some space to allow people the opportunity to join in when they're comfortable joining in.
I'd just like to add to that we talk a lot about patience and tenacity too, that sometimes when you have a group of go-getters and they know exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it, it's a lot easier just to go forward and try to do it. And that might be more efficient in some ways, but the long-term success doesn't usually work that way. It's much more successful if you bring people along as you're doing it, that you're helping to co-create. We talk a lot about that, bringing in new voices, and that you really take the time to build those relationships and have those conversations and communicate really well with everyone, which means listening to new ideas and new people. And it takes time. I think a lot of Jeff's examples he gave at the very beginning show years of work. They didn't happen just in 1 year or overnight. And sometimes that is frustrating. And I'm a type A, very achieving kind of person. And so I live and breathe that personally. But I've learned that long-term success really does take that patience. So we do try to encourage those who, I love that idea, Jeff, of being open and having grace to new adopters. That's something that people don't think of right away. They just think of the us and them a lot, and we really need to break down those barriers. But thank you. That was a great observation.
This is Mary Dooland. And, just before you started talking about that, I was going to jump in. There is a book called, and I believe I got it from one of the NCF conferences of some sort, but it's called Having Nothing, Possessing Everything, Finding Abundant Communities in Unexpected Places. And it speaks to including other people in the community. It speaks to finding talents and abundance where you don't expect it. And people who are not thought of as leaders and how to bring them into the community. And it's a very quick and very good read if you'd like to read something about that. But it's how to include people. I think once they have ownership, then you really do have more to work with, and people begin to become more engaged if they have some ownership and are asked and invited to build relationships and join.
The author of that book is a Methodist minister who's practiced ABCD for a long time. And Mike is full of wisdom. And one of the things Mike talks about that I just wanted to bring up here is sometimes we're going to act our way into thinking differently as opposed to thinking our way into acting differently. And Mary, I'm so glad you brought up that book, because I think that statement right there, that in many cases we're going to act our way into thinking differently, is going to be really true. And that's the nature of experimentation and being courageous here, is we don't know. So we're trying things, and we're trying things in order to learn. Are there any other folks that want to share something before we wrap things up this evening?
Yeah, this is Jacqueline Case. So because I don't get to see my McCook group actually in person, hi Cindy and Mary and Dale, I just wanted to use this as an example of the power of the invitation. So I'm 40 something, and I graduated in McCook in the 90s, early 90s, and I moved away. And I currently live in Arizona. And last year, I've been working on Nebraska projects for a number of years, including projects in McCook, but throughout the state. And last year I was at the NCF, and it was my first time coming to a conference. And I would just want to say the invitation that my McCook people gave to me to still be part of McCook, that hometown spirit never leaves. And I just wanted to use that as an example we can't forget about the people who aren't physically living in McCook as opportunities to impact our hometowns, because my heart has never left my hometown, like ever. And honestly, the power of your invitation last year, between everyone in the large McCook group that attended last year, was incredible. And it's super inspiring for me to be part of the NCF community and be more involved in the McCook's community specifically. And so that power of invitation hits not only our younger generation, but it can hit anyone at any time in their life, no matter how old they are. And it's kind of, I look at it as opportunities to create these highways throughout the United States that are all tied back to the heart of Nebraska. No matter how big your community is, there are people who might live in other cities, whether it's Denver or might be large cities or small cities. It might be Phoenix. It might be someplace in California. It could be as far as New York. We have alumni throughout the entire United States. And I guarantee alumni would give in ways back to their community, whether it be through financial or through ideas or sharing things that they see in their communities. And I think small communities throughout Nebraska, it would be beneficial on both sides. It could create jobs. It could be ideas as far as, I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things in our alumni network at various ages throughout their life that can bring experiences back to our hometowns. So I just wanted to say thank you to my McCook group, because you guys were so welcoming last year that I'm super excited about the future of my hometown. So